Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's Friday. Studio Stu is losing his mind here. He's knocking stuff off of the desk as we speak. He's all fired up. But welcome in. It's Friday. You guys know what that means.
Front Office Friday! One more edition.
No more. In my mind, the season is over. It's ended. It's done. We've moved ahead to the offseason. We're talking trades, free agency, all that.
Well, we are talking all that, but
We
we got a little bit of work to do left tonight. I'm really hoping it's tonight, but we'll see. We'll see.
We've got tons of stuff to get into here. We
Yeah,
got a crazy cat running around. We've got all kinds of stuff going on around the league. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are going to keep you up to date on everything that you need to know heading into what's going to be a busy offseason around the NBA. We've got all kinds of stuff. We got new rule changes, too, coming into effect. So make sure you stay in the know, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications as well. Keith, there's obviously a lot of stuff for us to get into. I guess the finals related, Luka apologized to his teammates for the decision to try to take that charge in game 3 and fouling out. Does this set things right with Luka? I think most likely the improvements that people are wanting to see in him from the defensive standpoint, that's going to have to take place next season. But do you think we see a more locked in Luka with more attention to detail on the defensive end of the floor?
Yeah, I think probably next year is where we'll tangibly see those things. I don't know that he even needed to apologize to his teammates. I think they probably all kind of get it at this point. But yeah, I mean, Tatum's checking in and Carly and everybody else. This is the Animal Planet program, apparently. Yeah, I don't know with Luka. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Like, yeah, he's got to be better on that end of the floor for sure. You can't just kind of be a turnstile out there. You've got to do more to kind of help, him, his teammates rather on the defensive end. And yeah, I think owned like probably shouldn't have taken a chance there with 5 fouls. And that came out of an interview with Malika Andrews where he talked about some other stuff too, and talked about, probably shouldn't complain as much as I do and those kind of things. But we're getting a little bit of a, we've heard it before. Like it's a little bit of a, I'll believe it when I see it kind of territory, but that doesn't take away from, he's a remarkable player. He's just got flaws. I don't think there are any perfect players in the league.
Sure. Oh yeah. I just think for Luka, the ceiling is MVP. Like that's the ceiling for him. But to get there, he's got to make those improvements.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, all right,
Can I address this real quick?
Yes, please do. That's actually where I was going to go next, because here's my question. And you guys know I've got no love for the Celtics. Why would they do that? What's the motive?
Yeah. If they were rigging it, they'd rig it the other way. They want more games. They'd love 7 games.
They're losing millions of dollars if this series ends in 4 or ends in 5 or whatever it is. Yeah, if that doesn't make any sense. Could you argue the charge should have been a block or vice versa? Yeah, but that's just about every charge block. It's the most it's the most controversial call in basketball because it's an eye of the beholder type thing. But yeah, I can't find a motive for why they would want to do that. It's literally costing them millions upon millions of dollars to end the series early. So there would be no reason for them to do that.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do is you're putting the final touches on a new media rights deal is, hey, guess what? All of our playoff series ended early, and we're done by the middle of June when we thought we might have another week of basketball left. Yeah, it's that part just a little silly. It is kind of funny. Somebody pointed out I've listened to so many podcasts now in the last few days, but it was the one time Luka didn't let somebody blow by him, like he fouled himself.
Oh no!
Out. They're like, in the right decision there with 5 fouls would have been just let him go. Yep. You don't need to try to take the charge there. So yeah, that was just kind of fun. And I think he knew too, like, man, I shouldn't even have done it, there. But yeah, I don't know, just interesting with that. So it kind of is what it is. We're moving on to game 4. People have been asking me all day, are we getting a game 5? Is it going beyond this? Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to know. Celtics have a history of not always being super focused when it matters most and those kind of things. And sometimes they flub up, but this team has been different. They have locked in more so than the previous editions. And I kind of think the Mavs, the way their comments were yesterday in their media availability, they just all seemed kind of done. Like they
Yeah.
just kind of like
The
uh,
get the tap out here is a real possibility.
yeah, I think if Boston can jump on them early, get whatever Celtics fans are in the building going, kind of win the crowd that way and go, I think that's where
That'll be it.
where we see this go. I think there's a chance that's how it plays out, but it's Luka and Kyrie. I'm not gonna put it past those guys for combining for 70 points plus and saving the season for one more day for the Mavs.
Yeah. Ollie said, as a diehard Lakers fan, I'm not thrilled the Celtics are going to win, but I'm happy for Keith. You guys were patient enough. That's where I'm at too. It's a terrible day. It's been a terrible season. It's been just an absolutely brutal last week and a half, both in terms of all the Dan Hurley stuff and then, of course, tragedy hitting with Jerry West and all of that. But despite all of that, the bright side is I'm super happy for you, for Keith. I'm happy to see you happy in all of this, despite all of that negativity. So I just keep trying to lean into that. Go, well, Keith is happy, and I love seeing Keith happy.
Yeah, it's very funny. I tried very, very hard when I was directly covering the team to let the fandom side of things go more so.
Yeah.
And this year I'm not directly covering the team and I leaned back into it and I've enjoyed the heck out of this season. Not that I didn't enjoy other seasons in the past, but this year, like I've really, really enjoyed it and loved it. So I am I'm very happy guy right now. We'll see where it goes for the let's see how I'm feeling in I don't know 8 or so hours and then we'll go from there and we'll kind of figure it out.
Actually, that's something I wanted to talk to you about. So, and it's been kind of a topic that's been on my mind for a while, and I know we've had some discussions about it, but essentially when we get into this business, when we get into sports media in general, there's now, for the longest time, it was there's no cheering in the press box, and that's still kind of the rule. Like once you get into media, you have to turn in your fan card. Well, in the last decade or so, that's kind of shifted, and we've seen some people, and Bill Simmons is certainly one of them, that has helped kind of usher in this era where media coverage can be from that biased perspective. And I try to make sure I let everybody know I'm not an unbiased observer in anything that I do. But you kind of have to make that decision of, am I going to go this route? I'm going to turn in my fan card. I'm going to try and cover everything down the middle, or I'm going to lean into it. I chose the latter there because I knew I couldn't genuinely be myself and try to be completely objective about the Lakers, about basketball in general, that bias was just, even if I was doing my best to try not to allow it to come through, it was going to come through. So I'd rather just be upfront about it. How did you make that determination, that decision? And now saying what you just did, how difficult was that for you to play that role of I'm not a fan right now. I turned in my fan card and do that?
It was really hard at times because my hope was to cover the team for a while as much like a beat writer that didn't travel as I could. Now I had the benefit of when I really fully was very in depth covering the team. Those were the pandemic seasons. So those of us who were virtual were almost on equal footing with those who live in the area because practices were closed. Everything was being done via Zoom or some other form of technology where we were all kind of the same at that point. And that's when I said, all right, if I'm going to be literally talking to these people on camera every day, I can't then do that and be like, yay, let's go Celtics, right? Like it just wasn't going to feel right when I was talking to them every single day. But my last season covering the team, it started to get, not that basketball and covering the NBA was any less enjoyable because it wasn't. That was always still the dream and remains the dream job. But it was the idea of covering the team started to get a little less enjoyable because it was like, I'm taking a mountain of crap every time they don't do well in my mentions on social media or in the comments on my articles, but I never get to share in any of the real joy of when they do well and when they win because I'm trying to hold back. And that was that beyond countless other reasons why I stepped away from covering the team day to day like that. So then I moved into a place where, like, this year I've been able to step back into being a fan again, and I enjoy it. And I get it. People want unbiased stuff, but I think what we both do is we're going to give you completely unbiased takes on 28 teams.
Yeah.
Then the other two, I think we do a pretty good job of being reasonable and calling out when they don't do well. Because I've talked to you long enough now to know you're not just going to stand here or sit here and be a Lakers cheerleader when you're like, this isn't good enough. You have said things. I mean, we had, I think it was 2 seasons ago, this season less so. 2 seasons ago, I felt like half of every episode was me trying to talk you off the ledge. Like you were like, this season sucks. I hate it. It's so miserable. And then they finally traded Westbrook, and you were like, all right, things are now getting
it got more fun,
moving in a different direction. And quite frankly, for a little while, they were like, holy crap, our dream of Celtics versus Lakers is gonna happen. And then the stupid Nuggets and Heat had to ruin it because we can have nice things. But it was hard though. It was hard, and it was I never got to the point where it's like crusty old beat writer who hates the game now and doesn't enjoy it anymore. And I never would get to that point, but it was frustrating at times where it's like, man, I listen to all this crap every single day from people when they don't do well, but then I can't ever enjoy it when it's good. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's an interesting dynamic to try, and it's an interesting thing to try to navigate. Obviously for Lakers Nation, I'm going to look at things from a Lakers slant, but even then, you've got this comment says Dave McMenamin does a good job covering the Lakers and staying mostly neutral. If I remember correctly, and I would have to ask Dave to be sure, but I believe he's a Philly guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's think he grew up as a Lakers
guy. And that's where you get those people that come in and give the truly unbiased opinions on teams. They didn't grow. I grew up as a fan of the Lakers. If I went and covered the Milwaukee Bucks, I can give you a very unbiased opinion on the Milwaukee Bucks every single day. But the challenge for me is part of people talk about my work rate and how much work I put in and all that. It's because it's a passion. I think it would feel different if I was covering a different team, while it would still be the NBA and I'd still be passionate about it. I love coming on here and talking basketball with you. There's a different level of excitement for me when, oh my gosh, the Lakers just made a trade versus, I mean, hey, Kevin Durant getting traded at 2 a.m. is pretty fun, but it's not the same level of excitement. So I think that's something that you have to weigh too. But a lot of the big time guys that you say, oh, this person does a really good job covering the team in an unbiased way. They're not a fan of that specific team, or they didn't grow up as a fan of that team. And so that's part of what you see coming through there.
I think the other major difference is too, coverage is different now. We have fan sites and fan blogs that are seen as reputable outlets for coverage of teams. And they're driven by fans, often created by fans. I mean, I don't know this for certain. You would know better than me. I don't have any assumptions that Lakers Nation came into being because somebody was like, you know what? There's a lack of Lakers coverage out there, because there certainly was not. It was, I'm a fan. I'm going to create something. And then you guys have done a wonderful job of growing in it. And one of the things I enjoy is, I'm not going to call anybody out because I don't like to do that, but there are Laker coverage out there that it's like, good Lord, like the world is not painted in purple and yellow. Like, stop. You guys, I think, do a pretty good job of, when you're frustrated, you kind of let people know. And you don't do it with like, oh man, they're 30-1. This one loss ruined. Like, it's not over the top. It's when there's real frustration to be had. Like I'm not trying to pick on you or bring anything up, but I can tell how done y'all are with the coaching stuff. Like, everybody's over it.
Yeah. That's all about the right.
Yeah. So, and I think what you guys do a really good job of is representing the voice of the fans without the voice of the fanatics and homers creeping in. And that's what I've tried to do with Boston stuff. But yeah, I'll pull this up here from Kellen. Would you rather have had this championship when you were covering the team, or how you currently are now as a more general media member? Just because I'm a writer and I love a good story, I would have loved to. I knew I was done with Celtics blog at the end of last season, whenever that ended. I knew season ends, I am going to write a couple more articles, and then that's it. And I would have loved to wrap the bow on that with covering a championship and going out that way. But honestly, this has been far more enjoyable because I've been able to just enjoy it as a fan. I sit down every night, and you know how it is. You watching Lakers games, not that you don't enjoy them, but all right, I got to make this note to make sure we talk about it on the post game show.
Yep.
When I do tomorrow's kind of look back, I got to make sure we talk about this. And you're just not you're not necessarily enjoying it in the same way when you just sit down, put your feet up. Now I tweet all game long, but that's because Twitter's like the virtual sports bar for me.
Yeah.
Like that's how I interact with people because I'm here in my house watching the game, generally by myself because my wife and daughter can't stand like watching stuff like that with me. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm just hanging out and enjoying it. So that's how I would answer that one.
All right, let's go here. Oh no, Connor. Yes, Stu. What would you like? Connor said, Keith, if the Celtics win, can you do a whole show as Crypto Bro?
I don't know. I think my voice would be done. It'd have to be a Friday when we have a weekend off, but I don't know.
You can be Crypto Bro, and I can be the old man, and we'll try to get through a show. See whose voice breaks first.
I'd be very interested to find out if we completely lost all subscribers, or if they went up. I'd be quite frankly a little concerned if that's how it played out.
I find when I try to do a voice, I speak slower, so the show would take forever. Like my daughter, if I'm reading her a story at bedtime, she'll say, read it in an accent, Daddy, and then I'll do that. But it takes me way longer to get through the story to do that.
Well, I talk fast enough for both of us.
Ollie said, as a general NBA fan, I'm disappointed in Tatum not playing to superstar standards. When you're that guy, you have to prove it every day. I thought he was really good in game 3. And I think he does a lot of other people just expect him to put up 30 every single night.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of other stuff. And that stuff is not often as recognized, but matters just the same.
Yeah, in these 3 games, he's rebounded, passed, and defended at an elite level. And people keep saying, well, Luka's scoring on him. Yeah, okay, Luka scores on everybody. Like that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's also had some really good possessions against Luka. And one of the things that's getting missed, I think, because it can be harder to see. He's doing a good job in ball denial on Luka sometimes, where Luka doesn't even get the ball because Tatum's taking him out of the play before he can get to it. So, but yeah, I mean, that's hard. He's a hard guy to defend. One thing I'd like to see Tatum do a little better on defense is move his feet and get in front of him. He's getting caught on his hip too often, but that's what the very best scorers do. Shooting wise, yeah, he's been awful. He hasn't shot anywhere near up to standard. It's been terrible, and he's missed some really like shots he should make, layups, some open jump shots. But everything had been for so long with Jason Tatum is what else can you give me when the shot isn't falling? And he's done that, and now it's turning into, well, the shot didn't fall, so it's not good enough. I just can't buy it. I think he's played really, really well. That said, Jaylen Brown's Finals MVP, barring something bananas tonight. Like Tatum scores 55 tonight and is unbelievable.
That could change.
Maybe he can steal it from him, but I think it's going to be Brown who gets that Finals MVP. I think he's done everything he can to earn that.
All right, let's go here. B-Ball Flag said, are you doing a pre-draft mock or show? Yeah, we'll do some type of we could do like a mini mock draft, have Bryce come on and do something along those lines. We do our live show during the NBA draft. Of course, we do that every year, but we could do a pre-draft mock for sure.
Yeah, that would be great. Sean did some of that last year for us, but I think Sean's got a lot of stuff going on right now. So so we don't want to task him with doing too much. But yeah, we're definitely going to do draft coverage for sure. That'll be one of the things selfishly, I want Boston to win tonight just to win. But there's a big part of me too that I want to shift into the rest of my job. Like I want to go into fully just off-season mode, and that's what we can do. And I'm excited. I'm hopeful by Monday we're either down to one more game left if they lose tonight, or we're done and we can go. So
I think the floodgates are going to open pretty quickly on all the rumors, all the news, all that kind of stuff is going to start really coming out. Andrew Escamilla said, what is your NBA front office dream job? Keith, I have a feeling yours has to do with some spreadsheets.
Yeah, I would love to just be part of the salary cap strategy team for an organization. I would that would be huge for me. I would love that. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I would love to be a general manager, PBO, whatever title we want to use for head decision maker. Of course, I would love to do that, but I'm nowhere near cut out to do that. But I know I could do the cap work for a team. I know I could do the strategy work for a team like that. And I would love that. I don't know that it will ever happen or not. It's the best thing right now is just actually having this conversation with a friend is I am so happy with everything I get to do right now that like it's if it comes my way, great, we can pursue it. But I'm not in a spot where it's like, oh my God, I have to get out of doing this or anything like that. So
And on the plus side, right now, you get to see your family.
yes.
Whereas, like, if you're, there's a lot of time spent in those buildings, and
Yep.
that's
And you're kind of always on call too if you're
Yep.
in a job like that. Because if it's like, hey, we're talking to trade, can we make this work? And then also do this. Like you've got to be prepared. Now, thankfully, technology being what it is like a being like more you can work more places. But like I don't want to miss my kid has 4 years of school left. Like I don't want to miss that right now. Like I enjoy being at her activities, at her stuff without having to do too much. I mean, most of that involves, hey, can we record earlier or later for both of us right now with that? What about you if you were to do that? Is that even something you would ever want to do?
Yeah, if I was able to, I would like to be involved in the strategy process, in the trade negotiations, free agent negotiations, things of that nature. I would turn to you for all of my cap stuff, of course. But I really enjoy the process of roster building and putting puzzle pieces together for a team, which is funny because I actually don't like puzzles. I don't enjoy puzzles. I get annoyed with them. I'm just not patient enough to sit there like that. But I really enjoy the process of putting together a roster, trade negotiations, how you can make things work, all of that. So I would love to be like an assistant GM job or something would be fantastic for me. I would love that.
Yeah.
That would be very, very cool. With the downside being that I wouldn't be able to every day talk to the publicly about all these players and stuff like that. But the upside of being actually involved in the decision-making process would be fantastic.
All right. You can just text me and we'll talk that way.
There we go. All right, let's see. We've got Keith. What would a Hauser extension look like this offseason? Any chance it gets done? If not, should they exercise his team option or decline it and make him a restricted free agent?
Yeah, I tend to think in this spot. So what my little pony here is talking about is these situations where players are going into the final year of a deal with a team option where they can be a restricted free agent if you decline it, or if you don't and you let it run, they're an unrestricted free agent. Hauser's a good example, but there's a bunch of guys in this spot. I just wrote about Aaron Wiggins of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who has really developed into a pretty nice player, is in a very similar spot too. What happens in these spots is I think you go in as a team hoping with the player you have a really good understanding of your relationship and where you both want to be with this. Because I think what you ultimately do in this situation is you say, hey, if we're for Boston, for example, okay, season a different spot, but for Boston, they're so far into the tax. Maybe they're like, doesn't really matter. If we go another 6-7 million in, it is what it is. We'll pay it. But they may say, hey, we want to keep our tax number down a little bit. But after next season, maybe Al Horford retires. He's only got one more year after this one under his contract. Maybe he calls it a career and retires. Then his $10 million we can give to you. And that's how we move it forward. And maybe that's a way because they would have his full bird rights. Sometimes what we see happen is they decline a year early, put the player in restricted free agency. And then what they'll do is they'll say, all right, we're going to sign you now, but we're paying you a year earlier than we technically have to. We need a little bit of a hometown discount off of that. So you see that sometimes. So these are sometimes the max contracts are like, okay, cool. But like, we all knew that where this was going. These are the ones that get super interesting for me as a cap nerd because you have a lot of different ways you can play these scenarios out.
And this is where, see, I would be talking with you about, okay, what can we do if we go this path? What can we do if we go that path? Sure. All right, let's try to build this out. All that sort of stuff. Yep. MetaMed said, love the show, fellas. You guys are both awesome. And I listen every Friday. With that being said, F Boston. When will Pelinka be held accountable? So I think, I do think that in terms of Rob Pelinka, Darvin Ham is gone. If there continues to be issues, Like it's now going to fall more towards Rob Pelinka. Has he been great as a GM? He's had good moments. He's had bad. He had one of the worst trades we've seen in sports history. He's also had some really good moves. Like after Kawhi said no, he had a great backup plan. So it's been a mixed bag with Rob Pelinka. But yeah, I mean, some things ultimately will start to fall under him, I believe, now with Darvin gone, because there's not really any place left for it to go at this point other than towards Rob if they continue to struggle. Of course, as with everything in this sport and sports in general, winning cures all. If you win, nobody's going to be complaining. So
yep,
we'll see.
Yeah, I think I don't love the rush that some went to with Pelinka did really good with getting D'Angelo Russell and getting Jared Vanderbilt for Russell Westbrook. Okay, but like, yeah, if you make a mess, you should be expected to clean it up, right? Like you made a mess with the first side of getting Westbrook, but he also, I mean, got the AD trade done, right? I know some people are like, well, AD wanted to go there. How hard was it? Still have to negotiate the trade because it's not like they just said, hey, New Orleans, here's a second round pick because too bad he wants to leave. They still had to negotiate a trade that worked. And at the end of the day, you won a championship. Now, for a lot of places, that gives you a lot more leeway. Let's kind of look at Toronto, right? They're still kind of riding high a little bit on winning the 2019 finals. In some other places, Boston and LA at the top of those lists, you don't get that kind of leeway for too long. You better keep being contenders, otherwise it doesn't work. And I'm 100% with you. I think if he is if that doesn't go well now, yeah, that's you have to start to look at Rob Pelinka, and then that's going to be all right. Who's next up then? Where do we go? And what will be really interesting is, do they go outside of the family for the next person? Because I get it, Pelinka wasn't a Lakers, but he was basically in the family with his pre-existing relationship with Kobe. So like you were very close. Like, do you go outside the family for the next guy, or do you go somewhere else? And by the family, I don't mean the Bus family. I mean the Lakers family. The larger vision there.
Well, and we've been saying that for years, that they need to widen their search. They need to not just, when the going gets tough, they kind of circle the wagons and just lean into whoever they already know. Okay. Oh, well, we know Magic Johnson, so let's go get Magic Johnson. We know Kobe's agent. Let's go get Kobe's agent. Let's go get Rob Pelinka. I do think they need to start casting a wider net in general and going beyond that. But look, we're less than a year removed from Rob Pelinka extending his press conference to continue a victory lap where he had a great summer. And I thought he did have a great summer. I thought they made some really solid moves. Did it all pan out? No, they got destroyed by injuries and a number of other things that happened. They were the second most injured team in the league this season. But that's not all of it. There was a lot of other things. There were some clunkiness once the roster got actually out there on the floor. And some of that's on the way it was utilized. Some of that's on the pieces themselves. So I do think at some point, if it continues to be a struggle this year, then maybe Rob starts to get looked at. But they're not there yet. I know that. They're not there yet. And we'll see where they go from there. And it could just be as simple as, when we talk about them looking outside the box here, maybe the solution isn't that. It could just be, hey, Jesse Buss, here's the keys, because he's done some great stuff in that front office as well. Yeah,
it could be. And in at least showing, now they went outside with Darvin Ham, obviously, but like JJ Redick that's a different kind of hire. I feel like because this is dragged out so long, that's gotten lost a little bit. That we talked about it, then it went away, then we got all jazzed up about the Dan Hurley stuff. Now that's gone away. Now we're back around to JJ, but that is a different way of thinking, right? Let's go with a slightly different way. So I know not everybody loves it. I get it.
No,
but that's let's see.
We had started to talk ourselves into JJ. Okay, you're gonna swing for the fences here and that sort of thing, and then it's what? Wait, we can get Dan Hurley. Okay, and then so it's like this natural kind of letdown when you go back to JJ Redick. Not that anything has changed with JJ Redick's candidacy. It's just you didn't know that other option was out there, and then you can't help but be a little bit disappointed, which is not fair to JJ. But that's the roller coaster that we ride.
I didn't see this. Did you see this one?
No, in fact, I was
haven't
just
seen that.
looking for that.
Yeah,
I didn't
I haven't seen
see.
that yet.
I haven't seen that
Sure.
report.
I
So
mean,
if you guys
maybe.
know where that Jake
Yeah,
Fisher
drop a
report about the
link.
Lakers trying to trade up, let us know. Because I did not see that. But there's so much stuff coming out right now, and what kills me is like I don't have time to listen to all the podcasts.
Yeah.
So when people drop news like that and it's in a podcast, I'm just hoping that somebody else picks it up and I can find it.
Yep.
Because if it's a written report, that's one thing. I can usually find stuff in those, but if it's at the 45-minute mark of a podcast, that it can be tough to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think with the podcast ones, that's where I need like Hoops Hype, Rumors Page, or Real
Yeah.
GM's Wiretap to have like picked up on it and found it, and then like, oh, okay, it was said in a podcast, and then a lot of times I'll go try to listen in there. So yeah,
Oftentimes too, and I like that you brought that up, that you go try to listen to it, because oftentimes when you read a quote, you take it one way, but then when you actually hear it, it can change your perspective on the quote quite a bit. So that is a good point, and a good, I think, recommendation for everybody out there. When you see stuff that's getting aggregated, that's getting grabbed, and it's just a quote, and oftentimes it's taken out of context, track it down, follow that thread, and figure out where it came from, and you'll get a much better sense of what is actually being said. Sometimes even just hearing the tone of a person's voice can change your perception of what's being said. So it's always a good extra step to take, because it can oftentimes further your understanding of really what the message was.
yeah. It was Tim McMahon said something jokingly on the Hoop Collective, and when I read the quote, this was back at the beginning part of the season, I was like, oh wow, like that's like a crazy thing. Then when I actually listened to it, I was like, oh, that was completely like he was being snarky in
Right.
his response and being extremely sarcastic. And then that was different. It was like, oh man, like that got taken out. That's why I just, a word of advice to everybody: be very careful with the aggregator accounts that are out there, because sometimes they're picking the most sensational quote for engagement purposes. They leave part of it out. They only grab a snippet because that's how they make money sometimes. So just be careful of that.
Okay. So Ollie
Back
was,
to the question. Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Moving up. I don't know. I guess I'd have to see who they're moving up for. Right? Like that would be my question.
It's a 16-second clip, so I'm gonna listen to this real quick and just see exactly
All right,
what Jake
perfect.
is saying, and then I'll get back to you if you want to jump on to the next question here.
Yeah, I'll grab the next one. If I can find it. Okay, I'll do a Celtics one. If the Celtics offer Tatum the supermax, will they be able to offer Derek White the max? How will it affect their overall salary cap? So that's a challenge. Is you can't max everybody. You can't max Tatum and Brown and White and Holiday and Porzingis and all that. Now Holiday took actually less money next season than what his player option would have been for next season, but added on 3 more years on top of that. Porzingis has a couple years left in his extension. It's roughly 30 million each year. It's 30 million and then 30 million and change, 29 million, almost 30 million, but he equals out 60. So Derek White's not going to get the max. Like, I feel pretty confident in that. I love Derek White. Everything he is, he's just not going to be a max guy. Now, the max the Celtics can offer him, that's definitely in play, because that's just shy of 30 million. But I do think whether it's extension or resign him, they're going to do what they can to keep him in the fold. I think they are going to, provided they finish this off and win this title, and then things don't go completely goofy on them next year, they're going to try to extend this as long as they can. I think Wick Grousbeck said, we've always said we would pay the tax for a winner and we'll get paid back in parades. That seems to be holding true for now. We'll see if that changes, but for now, I think that's where it goes.
Okay, so I listened to the Jake Fisher clip. He says he's heard a bunch of names the Lakers might be interested in 17. No surprise there. There's a ton of players who could potentially be there, but he's also heard them connected to moving up, maybe to get a big or Devin Carter. So
I like Devin Carter, man. Bryce loves Devin Carter.
Yes.
I think that's like one of his like guys in this draft class. I like Devin Carter, Providence College kid too, so New England guy. That's right down the road. I basically grew up midway between Boston and Providence, so I used to go to BC games, and PC games, Providence College games, all the time. Those were the 2 college games I would go to because they always played like Saturday afternoons. So I'd be like down at one of the two for the games, and I loved it. Despite the fact that I'm not a Catholic kid growing up in south of Boston, I was always at the 2 Catholic schools watching games for some reason.
I'm just looking up a few of the mock drafts. Like here's the Ringers trying to see like what they would need to move up to in order to get to Devin Carter. The
Probably
Rangers, they've got him at 11.
Yeah,
he's
been like 10 to 15.
Yeah. So there's there's a lot of teams right now though that are willing to move their picks, and we've been asking whether or not maybe we might see, instead of teams completely moving out of the draft, might we see movement within the draft in order to target certain players? This could be a situation like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is what we've been talking about for a little bit now. This would for me would have to be a targeted move up.
Yes,
there's a player we want. He's available. We'll go up and get him. Challenge is, what are you gonna put in a deal? Like because you can't just say you want 17 for 13 or whatever.
Exactly.
Like what else are you adding in? You're gonna throw in Jalen Hood-Schifino. You're gonna throw in a future swap on a first or something. I don't know. It's not just going to be just move up there. So we'll see. I did not read this first. It makes me laugh.
Move up to 3?
Yeah,
no, nobody would say that. Nobody's moving up to 3.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, they're not doing that, but that just made me laugh because I didn't even see the JHS
move up 3 spots. Yes.
Yeah,
but
3 spots.
Man. 3? No.
I'm going to say this right now. People should not be out on Jalen Hood-Schifino. Had a mess of a rookie season.
Yeah.
But like you got to give him time. He's a young guard. Guards and bigs, those guys take time sometimes. It's like the number of people who are doing victory laps on Scoot Henderson stinks this year. Like I'm not there at all. Like let's see. Let's give it a few years before we make these decisions. I think Hood-Schifino needs a lot of G League time this year, and I think he's probably still going to get it. But there's development to come. I'm not out on him.
And Keith, from watching him in the G League, he was really good there.
Yeah. Yep.
But then it was like we get these little bursts in the NBA, and it felt like he was trying to do too much. Like he was trying to show everybody everything he could do, and it was just a mess. And you could almost feel him trying to will the ball into the basket when he was shooting it because he was so frustrated. I think there's a mental hurdle to overcome there for him. And it could just be getting his confidence up a little bit and off you go. So I agree. I don't think people should be out on him, but Lakers fans are in general very out on him right now and throwing him into every single trade proposal and not considering his value as being anything really, which look, if I'm an opposing team, I'm not valuing him as like a first round pick or anything like right now, but
he's an extra thing.
Exactly.
Trade. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, he's the difference between like 17 to 11 in the draft, maybe. If a team likes him. Did you see the Donovan Clingan thing today? That the Hawks really like him.
And that was Dan Hurley dropping that again.
Yeah, that was like a drive-by within an interview about everything else.
Yeah.
He was just like, because they were at. So for those who haven't seen it, CBS Sports, Matt Norlander, who does a great job covering college basketball, did a conversation with Dan Hurley, and 99% of it was about the process with the Lakers and the UConn job. I actually recommend people go read it because there's some good stuff in there about what he went through and all those things and how like he was a little overwhelmed with meeting with the Lakers and seeing everything there and stuff like that kind of hit him kind of hard. But one of the things they asked him was like, who did you talk to for advice? And he's like, I talked to Quinn Snyder because I'd already talked to him a lot because they really liked Donovan Clingan. So then I used that opportunity to pick his brain. And it was like, oh, well, there's a little throwaway tidbit.
Right.
That's kind of cool. So yeah, I like Donovan Clingan too. I would not lose my mind if he went off the board first overall. I've got Alex Sarr and Zachary Risache ahead of him, but I'd be all right with Clingan too. I really like him.
And this could be the Paulo Banchero swerve all over again, I guess, if everybody's thinking it's going to be Sarr and Risache, and then it ends up being Clingan.
All right, let's go. On. Somebody, sorry. I just want to pull this one up real quick. No, he's not a back to the basket big at all. He's actually got a little bit of touch. A lot of people think he'll eventually step out and shoot threes pretty consistently. He's got really nice touch and he's an excellent shot blocker, can move his feet. He's kind of what like a young version of this Brooke Lopez would look like. Like that's what it reminds me of. I don't want to call him a young Brooke Lopez because young Brooke Lopez never left the block on offense. He didn't shoot jumpers at all.
He didn't.
But and he wasn't a great defender either. He became which is weird. Guys don't usually become really good defenders, defensive player of the year level defenders late in their career. But Lopez completely changed his game, and the Bucks used him in that drop coverage, perfectly. So man, Stu wants it today. He's like,
he does. He wants that attention. He's like, come on,
you in the face, man.
Give me those bets.
So yeah, I like clinging quite a bit. All right, go where you were
funny.
headed.
And Andrew Bogut is another guy. Remember when he came into the NBA? It was all about his offensive game, and he had these incredible post moves. And by the end of his career, he was purely a defensive player, set hard screens, roll to the basket, that type of guy. And that was all he was.
Yep. Yeah, well, that elbow and that
changed
disgusting elbow injury completely wrecked him.
Matthew Harrison said, with the cap smoothing and punitive cap penalties, it's likely the players' contracts don't meet the percentage of the basketball-related income they're guaranteed. What is the mechanism to pay the players the difference? So
let's get nerdy here.
Yeah, what happens there? Let's say the percentage of BRI, which is what? Is it 51?
It's 50 to 51. Yep.
Okay. So if that's the percentage the players get, let's say the players' salaries come in and they are below that number, what happens?
Yeah, so what happens what they do is they put the money in escrow. It's no different than any kind of like business deal where, hey, there might be some extra money. It's going to sit in escrow and then they'll go from there. So what happens is that money sits in escrow. And then what extra is owed to the players then then they divvy it up to the players. I don't know the exact formula. Is it like LeBron and crew make 50 million, so they get a bigger chunk of the pie? Is it based off overall percentage? Is it just an even split to everybody who was owed some money? But that's how they do it. It goes back to the players. There's also forms of like they can do it through different investment vehicles, which is a whole new thing as well. But the players eventually get that money. They get the easiest way to think about it is they get half of the money no matter what. It just is. It's either going to be paid through salaries. The other thing I would say is don't get confused with the smoothing, because teams are so far over the cap generally anyway that players are a lot closer to their 50%, even with the smoothing. The smoothing is going to have an impact, but the players get pretty close anyway. So,
all right. Well, that's good to know. Good to know. The chat says Stu in the building. Yes, he is.
Yeah, he is.
Let's get to this. We'll finish things out. Lakers zombie. Time to think outside the box, guys. Eldon Campbell as the Lakers' new coach.
That's
not a left field.
Forgive me, but I don't know what Eldon Campbell's doing now.
I'm not sure.
I haven't.
I don't know.
That's not. What is it? Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Like I just haven't heard anything about him. Like I don't know. Maybe there's a joke in there that I completely don't know. But if you don't know,
I'm even missing it. And I grew up during the Eldon Campbell era. But yeah,
Eldon Campbell was pretty good.
He was good for a little while.
Number of years. Yeah, he was really good. There was another question somebody asked, and I don't remember what it was, and now I can't find it. So I'm not gonna go back and find it. Do appreciate all the super chats today. That's gonna help when I maybe as soon as tonight do some damage to the old bank account. With that. So we'll go. So we'll see. Yeah,
there you go.
There
you go.
Yeah,
another post just getting sent to me by Ollie here.
All right. Well, you take a look at that. I'll pull this up.
Okay.
Somebody said they see my Disney name tags. How was it working at Disney? I loved my time working for Disney. I worked there for 20 years. Started as an intern, worked my way up into what was a really great job. I did all behind the scenes work on the labor management process. So for those who don't know, when I was working there's over 80,000 people who worked at Walt Disney World here in Florida, and that's just Florida only. I'm at this site, and it was to schedule those folks, to get those folks paid, to then hire people, all different statuses from full-time, part-time, intern, seasonal help, all that stuff. It's a beast, and there's a lot of management that goes on with all that. My team for a long time, what we did was, all right, it's going to be this busy on at Magic Kingdom on this day. We should have this many popcorn carts open on Main Street, USA, and this is how many people we need to work those carts. And that's how that was a lot of the work that I did with Disney, and I loved it. It was right up my alley. It was a lot of number stuff, a lot of forecasting stuff. It's a lot of what I kind of like with the NBA, with those kind of things. Because like you said earlier, was putting a puzzle together, and that's one of the things I enjoy with all this stuff. So I loved it. There don't get me wrong. There were days it was a job, and it was like, but yeah, I don't have any bad things or major complaints other than just every once in a while I didn't want to get up. And that was more when I started doing basketball stuff.
Yeah.
I quit a job I loved to do a job I love more. Like that's pretty easy way to put it.
Yep. That's exactly what I wound up doing as well. This was another thing that was sent to me from Jake Fisher, talking about D'Angelo Russell, saying he's on the Orlando Magic's radar, but I guarantee you he's not on the Orlando Magic's radar for more money than he's potentially on the books for in LA.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that'll be interesting.
The pluses and minuses of D'Lo are he's already played with guys who have the ball a lot, and he knows how to play off guys like that. But the minus is he going to come in and defer to Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner the way he did to LeBron and AD? If he doesn't, that's where things get wonky for the Magic. Yeah. The Magic, they want people who can lift those two guys up and support them versus people who can come in. I'm not going to say D'Lo can't do that. He may be able to do that, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see with that. So
glad you guys chose this path. Us too.
Us too. Yeah,
us too.
Absolutely.
For sure. Sign and trade LeBron would be ideal.
Sure. Tell us to where.
Yeah, the where. That's the problem. And even if I know people get these like grand ideas of, if you sign and trade LeBron, you're going to get two great picks plus a young player plus all this stuff. No, most likely what would happen is if they signed and traded him, it would be, where do you want to go, LeBron? And then it would be for whatever you could get for him. I would not expect this huge, massive return if that were the path they were going to go down.
Yeah, it's just such a weird situation that it would go a little. That's just hard. This was the one. It wasn't this one. Somebody else asked a similar question: would Atlanta trade both guards? Here's the challenge for the Hawks. The Hawks don't have their picks after this year. The Spurs have them, so they're not gonna bottom out completely. Like there's no reason to do that. Not with some good drafts coming. If that happens naturally, it happens, and so be it. But they're not going to intentionally bottom that team out. And in the chances of trading both Young and Murray and then getting really good picks back are pretty minimal, because they're probably going to go somewhere and those teams will be pretty good. Yeah. So that's the challenge for the Hawks. I do think one of the two goes. I do think that will happen this summer. I think they've now seen enough. That's not going to be a thing. They can't have both of them. So one of the two goes. I think this is coming out of Bill Simmons threw this out there, and I think it got aggregated to, again, be careful of aggregation, of he was reporting he heard this, and I think he was just throwing it out there as speculation of, because he loves tearing teams down. So he would be like, let's trade both guys and go. They did have an interesting conversation. It was him and Ryan Russillo about Trae Young, just where could he go? Where does he fit? Why is it awkward for him? Some places and other places it isn't, with those kind of things. So yeah, it's but that I wanted to touch on that one because I'd seen that.
No, that's important. Yeah. That's important, especially with Atlanta. All eyes on Atlanta with what they're going to do with the number 1 pick in the draft, which is less than 2 weeks away. Can't wait.
Draft time. And we'll have news for you guys soonish. We'll figure out our plan for draft coverage. We're still sorting through and figuring everything out, but we will do draft coverage of some sort. We are also going to do, once the season is actually over, I am going to do some nights. I know Trevor does this over on Lakers Nation, and it works out really great. I'm going to do some nights where I'll just pop on and we'll do, maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes of questions here on Front Office Show, just a bunch of off-season stuff and go from there with that. So, but yeah, we'll have some fun with draft night for sure. We always do. We're just going to have to sort through and figure all that stuff out.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. That'll be a good time. It's going to be an exciting time of year for sure. Studio Stu back in the mix here.
Stu knows the keywords when we're wrapping up, man, because he's always right there at the end to be
he
like,
knows.
"All right, you're
He's
done,
like, all
let's
right,
go."
I got to get my screen time here.
That's our dogs. When Danielle closes her laptop, they shoot off to the kitchen because they know it's dinner time.
Like, it's time.
They
know.
take off. So, yep.
All right.
Well, good.
Let's head off for the weekend on that. I've got some Lakers stuff to cover, obviously, that I'm going to get into. So that's going to be coming out over the Lakers Nation YouTube channel. And I've got a little something coming later today for Lakers Nation too that I'm excited about. So thank you everybody for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend. Make sure you are subscribing here to the channel. We're going to keep you up to date on everything going on around the NBA. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.